The story of Nani Doi, the giggling granny. It's rare for a serial killer to win public sympathy, but nearly 70 years ago, one woman managed to do just that. When a cheerful-looking old lady named Nani Doi stood in court, no one could believe she had secretly murdered at least 11 people, including 2 of her own children and her grandchildren. Nani craved what she called everlasting happiness, but her pursuit of it left a trail of death. Over time, she became known by chilling nicknames: the Giggling Granny, the Black Widow, and the Lonely Hearts Killer. This is her story. The beginning. In 1905, a young woman named Louisa Lou Holder found herself pregnant and unmarried, something considered deeply shameful in the early 1900s. Her father was furious and nearly beat her to death until her mother intervened. When Lou refused to reveal the father's identity, her family disowned her. Alone and disgraced, Lou gave birth to a daughter named Nancy, later called Nanny, in Blue Mountain, Alabama. Being illegitimate marked both mother and child as ruined. Not long after, Lou married a local farmer, James Braggs. Many in the community whispered that James was actually Nanny's father, though it was never proven. Regardless, James raised her as his own. He was a violent, controlling man who worked Lou and the children relentlessly on the farm. From an early age, Nanny's childhood was harsh. She worked in the fields, tended livestock, and cared for her siblings instead of attending school. By the time she was a teenager, she could barely read or write. Her only escape was through romance magazines and novels, which her mother secretly bought for her. Those stories of love and adventure planted in Nanny a desperate desire to find her dream man, who would whisk her away from her miserable reality. The accident. At age 7, Nanny's life took another turn. During a family train trip, the train made a sudden stop, and she slammed her head against a metal bar. She was knocked unconscious and left with recurring migraines, blackouts, depression, and sudden fits of rage for the rest of her life. Her father, James, refused to let her see a doctor. He insisted she was needed for farm chores. As she grew older, the effects of the injury became more noticeable. Nanny was moody, sometimes cruel to her siblings, and increasingly withdrawn. Books and daydreams of romance became her only comfort. Some psychologists later suggested that this head injury may have contributed to her violent impulses. Marriage and children. At 15, Nanny escaped farm life by taking a job at a cotton mill. There, she met 17-year-old Charlie Braggs, a fellow worker. He was quiet, hard-working, and lived with his mother. To Nanny, he seemed like the safe, steady man she had read about in her novels. Her father quickly approved of the match, mostly because it meant one less mouth to feed, and the two married within months in 1921. But marriage was far from the fairy tale Nanny had imagined. Charlie's mother was domineering and controlling, and the young couple was forced to live with her. Nanny was forbidden from reading her beloved romance magazines and was constantly criticized. Charlie, torn between his wife and his mother, withdrew and began spending less time at home. Between 1923 and 1927, Nanny gave birth to 4 daughters, but her marriage was falling apart. Charlie drank heavily, both had affairs, and Nanny grew resentful of her children, except for her favorite, Malvina. Tragedy strikes. In 1927, tragedy struck when 2 of Nanny's daughters suddenly died within hours of each other. Doctors blamed food poisoning from contaminated grain, a common problem at the time. Neighbors felt deep sympathy for the grieving young mother. But Charlie suspected otherwise. He didn't say it aloud, but he believed Nanny had poisoned the girls. Not long after, terrified for himself and his favorite daughter Malvina, Charlie abandoned Nani, taking Malvina with him and leaving the youngest, Florine, behind. Later that year, Charlie's mother, the woman who had made Nani's life miserable, also died unexpectedly. Doctors called it natural causes. In reality, Nani had poisoned her with a dish of prunes. A new start. After divorcing Charlie, Nani returned to work at the cotton mill. Soon, she answered a Lonely Hearts personal ad and met Frank Harrelson, a factory worker. At first, their marriage seemed happy, but Frank was a violent alcoholic. Meanwhile, Nani's eldest daughter Malvina married and had children of her own. In 1943, Malvina gave birth to a baby boy, Robert. Nani adored him, or at least pretended to. When Malvina had a second child, the baby mysteriously died in the hospital. Malvina later recalled a foggy memory of her mother pricking the baby's head with a hatpin. A year later, toddler Robert also died suddenly while in Nani's care. Doctors listed natural causes, but it was later discovered that Nani had poisoned his food with rat poison. Shortly afterward, Nani also murdered her husband Frank by slipping poison into his moonshine. As always, doctors believed it was natural illness, and she collected insurance money. The serial widow. Still chasing her fantasy of romance, Nani turned repeatedly to Lonely Hearts ads. Each time, she sought a man who promised stability and affection. Each time, when reality disappointed her, she killed him. Arlie Lanning, North Carolina. Nani's third husband, Arlie, was a heavy-drinking womanizer. To neighbors, Nani seemed like a devoted, church-going wife. When Arlie suddenly dropped dead in 1950, everyone blamed his drinking. In truth, Nani had poisoned him with food. Not long after, Arlie's elderly mother, whom Nani was caring for, also died suddenly. Later, the couple's house mysteriously burned down, and Nani collected the insurance money. Locals pitied her, unaware she had orchestrated it all. Richard Morton, Kansas. In 1952, Nani married Richard Morton, a retired salesman. He seemed wealthy and kind, but he was unfaithful. Nani quickly lost patience. Within 3 months of their wedding, she poisoned him. Around the same time, her own mother, Lou, came to stay with her. Nani poisoned her too. Samuel Doss, Oklahoma. Her final husband was Samuel Doss, a Nazarene minister. He was strict, frugal, and deeply religious. He disapproved of Nani's romance magazines, forcing her to read the Bible instead. At first, she tolerated him, but when he began controlling her spending and limiting her freedom, she decided to kill him. She poisoned his coffee, and Samuel fell gravely ill. Doctors hospitalized him, and he survived. But as soon as he came home, Nani tried again. This time, the dose was fatal. The downfall. Unlike the earlier deaths, Samuel's doctor was suspicious. Samuel had been healthy upon leaving the hospital, and his sudden death didn't make sense. He ordered an autopsy, which revealed massive amounts of arsenic in his system. Nani was arrested. During questioning, she shocked investigators by laughing and giggling, even as they accused her of murder. Her bizarre demeanor earned her the nickname the Giggling Granny. At first, she denied everything, but when prosecutors threatened her with the death penalty, she confessed to killing Samuel. As detectives dug deeper, they realized she had left a trail of death spanning decades. Husbands, children, grandchildren, her mother, her sister, and her mother-in-law. Trial and death. In 1955, Nani Doss pleaded guilty to Samuel Doss's murder. The judge spared her the death penalty, partly because she was a woman, and sentenced her to life in prison. Behind bars, Nani remained cheerful, spending her time writing letters to men, still dreaming of romance. Even in prison, she joked and laughed when asked about her crimes, showing no remorse. In 1965, after 10 years in prison, Nani died of leukemia at the age of 59. Legacy: Nani Doi is remembered as one of America's most chilling serial killers. Outwardly sweet, grandmotherly and harmless, but inwardly manipulative and lethal. Some say her abusive childhood and head injury turned her violent. Others blame her obsession with romance novels and her constant disappointment in real life. Whatever the cause, she was able to hide her crimes for decades, fooling doctors, neighbors, and even her own family. Her laughter in the face of murder made her unforgettable. The world will always remember her as the giggling granny,